One of the biggest regrets I personally have in my life is that I did not document my travels better. You see, I'm almost turning 14 now, not yet, but almost. So I'm looking back on decades of travels and amazing trips. And if you ask me now how much I remember of those, I have to admit it's not very much. Yes, granted, there are some highlights that I remember from each trip, maybe some photos spark some memories, but other than that, all the amazing people I met, the things I did, the foods I tried, it's all vanished. I just had to think to myself that a few years ago I went on a 2 weeks trip to Italy with my husband, now husband, and that was one of our first trips that we did together. And apart from a few things that I remember from pictures, like that we were sitting on the beach in Maremma, the only thing I remember is that I had awful food poisoning and I really thought that I had to die, and it was like the worst night of my life. And I think it's very sad that this is all that I remember of one of the first vacations with my husband. I don't know if you're like me and you also always just remember the bad things, so I really wanted to find a way to change that. And I'm happy to announce that I found a way that works for me, and I'm still not the biggest journaler. I make my life as easy as possible, but I just wanted to show you how I do it and maybe give yourself some ideas to document your life a little bit better. So the first thing I personally had to figure out for myself was to find a medium that I could actually stick with, because there's just too many options to journal, and I think all of them have their pros and cons. You see, I started, like I would assume most people, with a little paper diary. I actually found this one on the attic. It's from 2003 and it documents about 4 months of my life when I was done with school, before I left for my 13 months trip to the USA. And I did very good documenting about 4 months and about 2 months into my trip into USA. But for example, on August the 5th, of 2003, I wrote, "I'm so excited this weekend we're going to Sedilia to the state fair. I'm so excited, I'm sure there's gonna be lots of nice things happening." I have no idea what happened. Never wrote anything anymore. And also the next 11 months of my time in the USA are just gone. So for me it was quite clear that I need to find something paperless. And for a while I tried one of those 5-year journals, a digital version as a PDF in GoodNotes where I would just manually fill it out. And it's basically just a page where you have the same day of 5 years underneath each other, and every time you can write a few lines for it. But honestly, I quickly fell off the wagon and I got very frustrated because I skipped a few days and then I just thought, well, this is not working. Then the next thing I tried for a while was an app called Day One, where you can basically just make journal entries, you can add pictures, you can add your location and all of this. But I personally had the problem, or did not like it very much, that I could not group my entries. And after half a year of traveling and writing a lot of things, this whole thing just became very clogged and I did not like the way it looked. And honestly, I really don't mind paying for the subscription for an app when it really adds a lot of value to my life, but paying 40 euros per year for the rest of my life just to be able to journal, I did not see the worth in that. So I ditched the subscription. And once that subscription ended, I just thought to myself, well, I'm already paying a subscription to Craft, which is the note-taking app of my choice, and I like it very much, so until I find something better, I'm just gonna start using this one. And I ended up really liking it for journaling. And I really like the flexibility of it, and that I can add links and pictures and videos and text and group them and add calendars and whatever I want. And if you ever want to have a look into Craft Docs, I already did a few beginners tutorial where I explain the basics. So let's just jump onto my iPad in this case and into Craft, and I show you how I organize my journal. So this is my journal, and as you can see here on top I have my current journal, which is the document where I just write my things down at the moment. And then I have my trips organized by year. And I usually group them together into logical folders, let's put it like this. So for example, last year I got married, I left Austria, and then I went to Italy. And this year I already went to Brazil for a few months, then we made a big round trip, and then at the end we stayed in the south in Santa Catarina. And one thing I really like about Craft is that I can add so many things. So here you can see I added a calendar, I also added the whole itinerary and all those things. And up here in current journal is where I just currently write my things. And now I find it very easy to organize my diary into logical blocks. So all of these entries that I'm writing right now are documenting my time back home in Austria. And if this time would be over, I would just go ahead and drag and drop this over here to open a split screen. Then I would just select all the entries, group them together, go to Style, More, select the card, select this card layout, and I usually would upload a picture, but just to show you I just add any image here, and I would apply style, and then I would just drag and drop this over here. And now the current journal is free again for the new phases of my traveling life, and everything else over here is nicely organized. And another thing that I quickly learned to keep me on track is that I have to be flexible. You see, I will never be a good journaler. I don't see the point in documenting every day, and I usually don't write about my feelings. I just basically say what happened those days, what I liked, what I didn't like, what was fun, what was not fun. Sometimes I don't write anything at all, and sometimes I would sit down 2 weeks later and just write a little summary of the things that happened to me over the last 2 weeks. And this is something that works very well for me, and that's also something that works very well within Craft. And the last thing I had to figure out is that I am actually much more likely to continue journaling if it's easy for me to enter things. For me, Craft again is perfect because I can access it on my phone, on my iPads, on my computer. So I have lots of ways to add my entries. I created an iOS shortcut that works on my iPhone and on my iPads, and I just made an icon on my home screen, so whenever I press on it, it automatically asks me what happened today. So I just write down quickly a few words about my day, then I press done, and then it will automatically create this entry here in my journal where it tells me the date, what I wrote, also the location, and it puts in this little divider. And you can basically create a short code like this for any note-taking app that you're using, as long as they support iOS shortcuts. And I will put the iOS shortcut on my website, so if you want to have a look, head over to makifuchs.com and it will be there. So yeah, I'm still not the biggest journaler in the world, I assume, but I'm very happy that I finally found a way to at least document my life and my memories a little bit better. So as I mentioned, I already did a few videos on Craft, so if you're interested and you want to learn more about this, I already made a little playlist and I will link it somewhere here. And other than that, thanks for watching and I see you in the next video. Bye!